It's been a massive week in the world of drivers. We had several additions to the USGA and the R&A's conforming driver head club list. From Cobra, the dark speed family of driver who was dropped onto that list. We had additions from Ping with the addition of the G430 Max 10K. We also had the Black Ops family of drivers added to that list from PXG. But the driver that probably captured the most people's imagination, that got people most buzz, certainly out on social media, was the addition from TaylorMade. TaylorMade had the new Qi10 LS driver added to the USGA and the R&A's conforming driver head club list. Rory McIlroy, who is playing in the DP World Tour Championship this week in the United Arab Emirates, added that driver to his bag and put it into play on Thursday. Now, based off of the USGA notes and images that we now have in hand, there's some things that we can glean about that driver, some things that we can pretty much assume about that driver, even though to this point, TaylorMade has been pretty much mum on the details. We haven't had official word on Qi10 LS, but let's go on some of those photographs and let me utilize some of my experience working with TaylorMade designers and engineers, and let's see what we can find about Qi10 LS. Okay, so the first image that we're going to look at is this one right here. And right off the bat, we can notice there's something very different about the Qi10 LS than previous drivers over the last couple of years from TaylorMade. There's no red face. Now, TaylorMade has used red faces to call out the fact that its driver faces are made from carbon fiber, specifically 60 layers of carbon fiber for the last couple of years, Stealth as well as Stealth 2. Now, they probably made those faces red so that'd be very, very easy in photographs, on television, to make sure that people know that that is a TaylorMade driver. They're the only driver that's out there that has a red face. So if you're watching a golfer swinging a club and it's black and it has a stainless steel or a silver tone face, it can sometimes be a little bit tricky to tell which one it was. When the driver face is red, you know exactly it is a Stealth or it is a Stealth 2. This driver in the Qi10 LS has a face that is tinted in blue. Now, it might be a very, very deep blue color all the way around with lighter blue accents. It's a little bit tough to tell in this image, but it's certainly not red. So right off the bat, a very, very different look in this driver with the face. The other thing I want to call your attention to is a white line that appears at the top of the faceplate along the seam where it meets with the crown of the driver. That should look familiar to many players, especially to people who have a TaylorMade Stealth 2 fairway wood. That line is there for alignment. And as we progress into the next image, this is a shot where Harry Diamond, Rory's caddy, is holding onto the driver. You can see that white line very, very clearly. Again, obviously the driver's upside down, but you get the point. That seam or that line is there basically to call out and to make it easier for a golfer when they're in a address position to look down and see exactly where the club is aligned. If you have a black crown and if you have a darker face, as we saw on the fairway woods from TaylorMade and Stealth 2, then it can be a little bit tricky sometimes to see exactly where everything is lined up. And that white line is very subtle, but it is something that if you're looking for it, you'll see it. I'll see that white line against the black crown as well as the darker colored face. So that was not present in Stealth 2 or in Stealth. It is clearly present right here in Qi10 LS. So again, a little bit different look, a little bit more help with the alignment, which leads us to probably believe that even though we don't have a lot of photographs on though that goes along that seam can help that out quite a bit. This image of Rory McIlroy swinging the Qi10 LS shows us something else that is designed into the sole of this golf club, which is a sliding weight. Now, we saw this sliding weight in the USGA images as well, and there's clearly a bolt that probably using the same type of torque wrench that's come with most TaylorMade drivers and most drivers these days that have any level of adjustability in the hosel or movable weights. By loosening up that bolt, I got to believe you're going to slide that weight backwards and forwards to be able to create either a draw or a fade bias. And in this image of Rory McIlroy, it looks like it's been shifted more towards the heel. Now, when you shift weight towards the heel of a golf club, it dynamically is going to encourage the face to close a little bit more easily on the downswing and therefore create more of a draw bias. If you shift more weight out towards the toe, then it's going to sort of slow down the face closure and encourage more of a fade bias, because basically what you're doing is you're shifting the center of gravity towards the heel or towards the toe, and that's what's really creating that draw or the fade bias. Rory has his set up, it appears to be, in a little bit more of a draw bias. Off the tee, he is one of the players that seems to like to move the ball from right to left. That is something that will maximize out distance. Many of the biggest hitters prefer to have a slight fade bias, or at least they want to see a fade bias. For example, John Rahm is one of those players who likes to hit the ball typically from left to right with a fade. Rory obviously has moved this movable weight. We don't know exactly what that weight is made of out of this point. We don't know how much it weighs, so how much you're really shifting. The more weight that you have in a sliding position like that, the more you're going to be able to manipulate the center of gravity. In some ways, this is reminiscent of slider. If you've been out there and you've been familiar with TaylorMade drivers for a long time, there was a family about a decade ago, SLDR, slider, that had a sliding weight. TaylorMade for a long time has had movable weights. I mean, we're talking almost 2 decades now, going back to the old R7 quad stuff where you would basically move weight bolts and weight screws around. The slide mechanism allows you and a fitter to really custom tune up exactly how the ball flight's going to work. By having that weight also, though, forward, it should lower the initial launch angle, and should also help to scrub off spin. So in a driver that's labeled LS, we can pretty much assume the Qi10 LS, the LS stands for low spin. And a lot of that, I would suspect, is because that weight has been pushed forward, really right behind the speed slot and behind the leading edge. So again, that weight being forward is going to help to drive down spin rate, drive down the launch angle, and it should help to boost up a little bit more ball speed. Then we get into this image right here. Now, this one is really interesting for a couple of things. Number one, you can see that there is a movable weight or some type of an adjustable weight in the back of the head, and we can also see that this sole is most likely made out of carbon fiber. Now, this would be nothing new again for TaylorMade. They've had not only carbon fiber crowns, but very large carbon fiber sole panels for a long time. Carbon fiber in the face, they've got probably as much, if not definitely more, carbon fiber in their driver heads than any other brand that's out there these days. So you're removing weight when you do that from the middle of the golf club, which creates discretionary weight. You can shift it forward, you can shift it back, and do all kinds of things to shift around the center of gravity. By having that weight in the back, it would allow fitters and golfers to be able to, again, fine-tune the launch angle and the spin rate, which, again, for a professional player like Rory is going to be really, really important when you have club head speeds, 122, 125, 127. You're creating a tremendous amount of speed, and fine-tuning the spin rate and the launch angle is critical. And a weight in the back would allow a player like Rory and fitters in the TaylorMade trucks to really dial in the spin rate to be exactly where they want it to be. Then I want to take a look at the loft sleeve. Now, this to me is very interesting. Rory McIlroy has here, we can see a 9-degree driver, at least that's the stated loft. But notice that the loft sleeve is in the standard position. So unless TaylorMade has done a little bit of monkey business with the loft sleeve and sort of mislabeled it, it would sort of make us assume that Rory McIlroy is playing a 9-degree driver at 9 degrees. Now, in Stealth 2 and some other drivers in the past, Rory McIlroy has had, for example, a 9-degree driver that has been ratcheted down. And when you de-loft a driver using the sleeve, you're basically creating a little bit of a fade bias as you're lowering the loft. Now, why would Rory want to have a 9-degree driver and de-loft it? It's because to maximize out distance, you want to create high launch, low spin. And if he can have an elevating swing, what's referred to as the attack angle being positive, you want a positive attack angle that's going to send the ball high up with low spin, then he needs to decrease the loft of his driver to get the numbers to sort of be where he wants it to be. But we can see in Qi10 LS that if he's playing with a 9-degree driver at 9 degrees, not down to 8, but at 9 degrees, this driver is probably more low spin than the other TaylorMade drivers he's had in the past, because he's playing at 9 degrees and obviously hitting the windows that he's looking to hit from a launch standpoint, from a spin standpoint. So I would assume that this is probably more effective at decreasing spin. Now, is it because of that forward weight? That's probably a part of it. Is there something else that's cooked into this driver that we haven't learned about yet? That's probably also the case. But at any rate, it's very interesting if Rory McIlroy is playing a 9-degree driver at 9 degrees. So to bring this on home, what do we think we know about the TaylorMade Qi10 LS that Rory McIlroy has been using in the United Arab Emirates? Carbon fiber in the face, in the crown, in the sole, movable weight, that is going to be just behind the speed pocket slot and behind the leading edge in the face. An adjustable weight of some type in the back, probably more for fitting and fine tuning of of launch angle and of spin. And probably a very, very low spin offering with that movable weight up in the front, because if Rory McIlroy is playing it at 9 degrees true, this would be a very, very low spin offering. So as more and more details become available, obviously I will share them with you folks. But some very, very interesting news, very, very cool stuff. Let me know in the comment area below what you think. Is this a driver that you think you're going to be interested in maybe trying out for yourself? Is this something that you feel looks good? What do you think about the look? Do you miss, or do you think you will miss the red face of a TaylorMade driver, or is it a high time that TaylorMade got rid of that red face? Are you a fan of that kind of a? I found this video to be informative. If you got something out of it, it'd be really